Hello and welcome back. In Blender 2.8 they've added all of these little shortcuts on the left to make it a lot easier to move things for beginners, but it does make it a lot slower if you're modelling a lot of things quickly, so I'm going to teach you the keyboard shortcuts to speed up your whole process. To start off in modelling, Tab goes into edit mode, Control R lets you add loop cuts. If you press Control R and then use your scroll wheel, you can change the number of cuts. If you scroll before you left click, then you can choose where the cuts go. If you select by holding Alt and then clicking, you can select the entire loop. Pressing G lets you move the loop. Pressing G again lets you move it only along the faces that it's around. You can use 1, 2 or 3 on your keyboard to go between vertex, edge and face selection modes. You can press E to extrude. You can press Alt E to extrude faces along normals. You can press Control B to bevel an edge. You can press Control B and scroll to change the number of bevels. If you have an object and your bevels aren't going on properly, you need to press Ctrl A and then apply rotation and scale. You can press I to inset a face. If you have a mirror modifier and you press I and you want it to go across the side, you can press B. If you want to add an edge loop and then have it follow a specific side, rather than blending between the two, you can press E and then press F to decide which one it snaps to. If you have loop tools enabled, then you can select any number of faces, right click, and then choose any of the options. With a whole object, you can press S to scale, R to rotate, R twice to rotate it on a gimbal. You can do the same with specific faces. You can press O on your keyboard to turn on proportional editing, and then Shift O to choose which of the options you want. Use the scroll wheel to change the radius. You can press Shift Tab to turn on snapping, and then Control Shift Tab to choose which option. You can select one object, select another, and then use Control P to parent it, and it will follow it with movements and rotations. You can select one object and then another and press Control J to join them into one object. When you have one object, you can press L to select only the linked parts, and then you can press P and choose by selection to split them into two separate objects again. If you have an object made up of lots of smaller objects, you can press A to select all and then P and by loose parts, and it will automatically break them apart. Or you can pick just one by using L again and then press P and by selection. If you assign them all different materials, you can press P and then change which ones are split by choosing material. You can press space to start and stop the animation player. Use the arrow keys left and right to move it one frame back and forwards. Use shift left and right to move it to the start and the end. When you hold an object, you can press I to choose a keyframe and then choose whichever one you want. You can also do the same over any field, just by hovering over it and then pressing I. A yellow indicates a keyframe. Green indicates a keyframe that's not currently over. If you have an object and you want to add a subdivision surface modifier to it, you can press Ctrl and then the number of levels that you want, for example Ctrl 3. You can edit this at any time by just pressing Ctrl and then the number, and it will just change the modifier. You can press Shift A to add any kind of object. You can press Ctrl C and Ctrl V like in any program to change the objects. You can press Shift D to just duplicate an object. If you're in edit mode, you can press Shift D and duplicate it within the same object. You can press Shift S to change where the 3D cursor is. This will change where new objects are added. You can press Shift Z to go into wireframe mode, or hold Z and then choose wireframe or rendered or material. If you select multiple objects, you can now press Tab and go into edit mode. This is new to Blender 2.8. If you select one object and then another, you can use Ctrl L to link it, for example to copy all of the materials from one to another, or all the modifiers. And if you forget any of the hotkeys, you can just press F3 and then search for the one that you need.